Welcome back to another episode of TikTok Famous Podcast. And today I have Amber Chiapetto, adopted at 2, returned to the foster care system at 14, and moved through 3 homes in a single year before finding the family who finally saw her. Today she shares her story with honesty, heart, and a mission to bring real awareness and reform to foster care and adoption. Her voice is helping thousands feel seen, supported, and less alone. So stay with us.
You're listening to the TikTok Famous Podcast, where viral fame meets raw reality. Join your host, Meredith Willits, as she dives deep with your favorite creators to uncover the real stories behind the scroll, the highs, the lows, the algorithm chaos, and everything in between. This is not your average interview. This is the TikTok Famous Podcast.
Amber, thank you so much for being here with us today. I so appreciate your just everything about you. I love. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So I was talking to a few people about our interview today, and everyone's like shook. Like everybody that I talked to, they don't even believe this is a real thing. But it is.
Yeah, it is. A lot of people don't believe that you can return your adopted child to the system, but in America especially, yeah, you can. And it's not a difficult process.
So when I listen to your video, you talk about like, I was returned, right? I was returned to the foster care system. I almost would prefer it to be spoken about like, no, I was given up for adoption at age 14. Because once you're someone's child, aren't you supposed to be their child forever? And so to then, quote, get rid of you, it would have to be that you were given up for adoption.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I have kind of labeled it, and so have a lot of other people, as being unadopted. Like, it sounds like a really harsh word to say unadopted, but it's the harsh reality that it does happen. Thousands of children every year are returned to the foster care system, either because the parent grew tired of the child, didn't want to parent them anymore. They found the child to be too difficult, or they had changes in their own family biologically that they no longer saw for lack of a better word, need to keep this adopted child in their family.
How often do you think this actually happens?
The last thing I read, it's difficult to find data on the amount of children who are returned to the foster care system after an adoption. Probably likely for good reason. It's probably something that they don't want to have data on to be available to the public. But it's estimated that around 5,000 children are returned to the system every single year after being adopted, which, 5,000 children over the course of 365 days in comparison to, how many children enter the system every day. Probably doesn't seem like a large number, but that's a lot of kids. So
that's a lot of trauma.
Absolutely. A lot of trauma.
So can you talk about, take us back to your up for adoption at age 2, if you want to talk about that. But let's talk about how we got to age 14, where your mom is more or less having you arrested.
Right. Unexpectedly and just randomly. So yeah. We can talk a little bit about when I was 2. That's not a lot that I've shared on my TikTok. But pretty much my biological parents could not care for me, just given mostly substance abuse. They were both addicted. And they had children previously that they had also lost to the system. So when I was 2, my biological mother made the decision to sign me over to my maternal grandmother. And my maternal grandmother adopted me. So my maternal grandma actually adopted my biological mom when my biological mom, Cindy, was a child. And then Cindy grew up, had me, signed me over to Patricia, her mom, my maternal grandmother. My family home during my childhood was strict, to say the least. My mother was elderly. She was Southern, so she had a lot of those.
It's okay. Hold on a second. You're muted on my end. Let's see here. Unmute. Let's see here. It says you're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, there you go.
Okay. I apologize. I don't know. We're having some technical difficulties today.
That's all right. It happened. So let me ask you. So you were given to your biological maternal grandmother. No, you
My
were
adopted maternal grandmother. Yeah, because she
so
had adopted my biological mom as a child as well.
so the person that adopted your mother then had you, then
Yes.
your mother gave you to the woman who adopted her.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And she was older, obviously, and now she's here raising a 2-year-old,
In her
Southern,
60s. Yeah.
in her 60s, zero patience, and here we
I
go.
don't think there were times my mother probably had good patience, but there were a lot of times she also did not, and she parented in a way that I wouldn't parent my children. Just it was abusive in nature, physically, mentally, emotionally. So, yeah, that was difficult to grow up in that environment. I remember once when I was 5, she told me that it was embarrassing for me to call her grandma, because I still called her grandma at that point. That's how I had known her from 0 to 2. And that I was to only call her mom. And so that's when the switch from grandma to mom happened.
Okay. So she specifically said, call me mom in at all times. What would be embarrassing about that? If you'd always called her grandma, why would she all of a sudden want you to call her mom?
Sorry, it disconnected again. I was trying to connect it. Why would it be? I never understood that either, but I was, really young. So I just was like, okay, you just kind of do mostly what you're told at 5 years old. Especially whenever you were in a household like I was raised in, you listen.
Now, I know you had siblings. So how were those siblings? Where'd they come from?
They all came from various avenues of foster care as well. So my mom was a foster parent for, at that point in her life, probably like 30 years by the time she got me. She fostered over 200 children in her life, adopted, I think, 15 or 16 kids. So she had adult children that were moved out and had their own families that she had adopted. She had 2 biological sons as well from her marriage. Her husband had passed by the time she adopted me, so I never knew him. But they did have 2 biological children. And then just various foster and adoptive children. So, but as far as the number of children that lived in the house with me, there was 4 other girls besides myself, and then 2 boys.
You can't know the psyche. I'm going to call her mom, grandma, your mom, whatever.
I've never really known what to, because people ask all the time on my TikTok, like, why do you still call her mom after everything that happened? And I'm like, I don't know what else to call her.
Right.
It's a complicated family tree. So I don't know.
Right. That's a tough one. So if you were to kind of hone in on the experience, looking back, from way out here, knowing what you know, why was she adopting and fostering all of these kids? Was she in an addiction? Was she getting the money? What the heck was she doing this if obviously she's like, what was that all about, do you think?
I don't know. I can't really speak to that. I do know in the time that she raised me, she never had a traditional job. So I can't say that she did it for the money that you get for fostering and adopting children, because I don't know what kind of money she lived off from the death of her husband, right? I'm a child. I don't have access to her financial records. She's also elderly, so she could have been retired at this point. She's in her 60s, so I'm sure she worked her entire adult life. Maybe she's living off retirement. So I can't say that it was for financial reasons. But given the way that she would treat us, I also can't say it was out of love for children, right? So I don't know if it was an image thing to make herself look like a good person, or if somewhere inside her she really believed that the way she parented was the way she was supposed to parent and what was right, and so she really believed she did it out of love and care for children. I can't confidently speak to her reasoning behind why to take in so many children.
Did you ever feel loved, squishy, cared for, snuggly, or was it food, shelter, homework, keep you alive?
That's difficult. I don't remember. There wasn't a lot of like physical affection when I was a child, like cuddling or like, things that you do with like a toddler, like a 2-year-old.
It's all right. If you want to just use your computer
I
sound,
don't
you
know
can
why it's not just using my computer sound. Like because I
maybe
turned
shut off your Bluetooth to your phone so it doesn't like try to hook up to that. I don't know. It's a possibility. You gotta love when we have it's always something. It's either my Wi-Fi or it's not you. So trust me, it's
right.
I think we're still in some sort of a retrograde. Who knows?
Right. Mercury retrograde was supposed to have ended, but here we are still struggling. Anyway, so what were we talking about?
We were talking about it. Was it more like
Oh,
food, shelter, like keep you kids alive, like checking the box?
so the reason that's difficult to say is because while there was a lot of physical punishment, there were a lot of really strict rules. There was a lot of like controlling nature from my mom and how she parented us, like just like nitpicking at us for the tiniest things all the time. Like everything was a big deal. And while there wasn't like any physical affection, there were things like Christmas presents and celebrating our birthdays. Like we never had parties with friends from school, but like she always bought a cake and presents for us to have as a family. Our clothes were always really nice. We always had food. We didn't live in some tiny crammed house with all the people who did live with us. So, and she took us to church. I've deconstructed from Christianity now, but I was raised in the church. Yeah. So it's just, it's always that's always difficult for me to say if it was just like food, shelter, keep us alive, or because it was a good mix of both, I think.
And it was very militant. You said that you still, I don't know, still that you struggled for a very long time with an eating disorder because of the way that you ate, that you were told to eat.
Right. Yeah. So I can remember I was actually just going over this with my therapist the other day because I do EMDR, and this is the thing that we're tackling right now is this booster seat. I remember sitting in when I was 5 years old, and I can remember sitting in this booster seat at the counter, and I'm like counting my bites. I'm going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And so I've kind of had this like OCD develop around food where I have to ensure that I take like an even number of bites and an even number of drinks. And like when my body is under a great amount of stress, it will stop eating. And so then I tend to I fluctuate in weight a lot. Yeah. So the way that mealtime went when I was a child definitely affected who I am as an adult.
Was she like, you have to eat all your food, or was she like, what was her crazy?
It was that you had to eat all of your food, which I don't think is a bad thing. When you're doing it in a way that is not abusive. So force feeding children food that they don't like. And when they get sick after being force fed, giving them more to eat, like, you know what I mean? And she would time us. And if you didn't eat in the window of time, you would get hit and sent to your room for the night. And sometimes it seemed like she intentionally made things that were really gross for us to eat. Just like weird things that she would mix together. I don't know if that was like an enjoyment and pleasure thing for her, but it felt like that sometimes.
So how old would she be right now? Like in her 80s, late 70s?
She was born in 1928. So if she was still alive today, she would be turning 100 in a couple of years. So yeah, she'd be like 98.
Yeah, so she was much older. Okay.
Much
But
older.
still, okay. I mean, like, so she was, if not silent generation, definitely boomer. So, I mean, that wasn't a very warm and cuddly era. It was like acts of service. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a part of it that you look at it and you're like, okay, you know, it's just such a complex issue. So can we talk about the day that it all went down? You were at school. Where were you at?
I was at home. I had just gotten back from summer camp. So it was like my 4th year going to this Christian summer camp with my church. It was a week-long summer camp in Indiana. And I had just gotten back the day before. And that morning, my mom got up and she said that she had some errands to run and that she had to go to a chemo appointment because she was battling cancer at this time. And that she'd be back later in the day. And I was in charge of watching my siblings, making sure they had lunch. And she instructed me to not let anyone go outside, which was super weird because it was summer, it was July. And like, we were not allowed to be in the house if it was nice outside, like at all. So it was just super odd. But I listened to her. And then, 2:00 rolled around and my brother and I were in the basement, kind of like digging around in boxes of like antique toys that we were not supposed to be in because we weren't supposed to be in the basement, but mom wasn't home. So, and I heard the back door open and close and I was like, mom's home, like clean all this up. I'm going to go distract her, get it put away. We won't get caught. And I ran up the basement stairs and down the hallway to turn towards the kitchen. And there were 2 police officers standing in my kitchen. And they were there to arrest me. I guess you could say arrest me. They put me in handcuffs and they put me in the car and they took me to the family services building. And I learned that my mom had spent the week, I was at summer camp and that day, unadopting me or putting me back in foster care at 14.
Did you see her treat your siblings the same way she treated you?
Yes. I always felt like there was a higher expectation of certain things on me growing up. Because I was raised in a household where like you as a girl are being raised to be someone's wife, someone's mother, a homemaker. And so like the expectations of the house, I felt like were more on me to keep it clean, to make the meals in my mom's absence, to take care of the children. And if one of the kids did something while she was gone and I was in charge, then I would get in trouble more so than the person who did the thing they weren't supposed to do, because it was my job to make sure that they were behaving.
I'm going to ask a question that's going to sound really shitty, but I don't mean it to. And while I was sitting there brushing my teeth, getting ready for this, I'm like, should I ask this? But I'm going to ask this because I think that you understand it. Do you, when you look back, go, okay, I did XYZ things wrong. I could see how I would have pushed her over the edge. I was out doing all these things and she just couldn't take it anymore, on top of fighting cancer, which I personally didn't know about until you just told me right this second. I was a bad kid. I was a hellion. I was the worst kid known to mankind. I had to put me back up for adoption too.
No, I was not a perfect child by any means. And around the time I turned, right. And around the time I turned 14, I did start to do rebellious things. I stayed out past curfew. I didn't want to do my chores. I ran around with some kids who were maybe not the best kids.
And I'm not victim blaming right now. I just want you to know, this is for the listeners. I want the listeners to hear, like, was she burning the house down? Was she killing cats?
No, I was not killing animals. I was not setting fires. I started smoking cigarettes at this time. I remember one time I was caught drinking. So some things were like, but also at the same time, I feel like are like typical teenage experimental behaviors, especially when you lived in such a strict environment. Does that make my behavior okay? Absolutely not. But is it a justification for putting a child back in foster care? Also, no. And I understand. And that's what I told myself for the longest time when I was a kid and I was going through foster care is I did this, this, and this. I deserved this. And I told myself that for my entire childhood and for much of my 20s until I started going to therapy and I started sharing my story on TikTok. And it just opened this space of like, hey, this was not your fault. And that's a really beautiful thing. But I think if we consider my mom's cancer and how elderly she was and how ill she was, and maybe I was too much of a teenager for her, let's go down that road. You don't do it the way she did it, right? You don't leave the house and send 2 police officers into the home and tell lies to the police and the Christian foster care agency you were putting me in that, all these lies about me of things that I didn't do to justify what you were doing. So if it was that she just wanted to make sure I was somewhere safe before she passed, we could have gone about, it would have involved me in a conversation. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that, or do you know that, or if the Christian adoption agency did anything to mediate during that difficult time where she's coming in and like, hey, I'm done with this kid, take her. Do you have any backstory as to whether they're like, look, why don't we all sit down? Let's work on a plan, maybe some parenting classes, maybe some therapy for Amber. anything like that, or they just like wash their hands of it?
I doubt it. My mom wasn't really that kind of person. We didn't really talk about issues as a family. It wasn't like if you felt upset as the child about something when I was growing up that your feelings were heard or that they mattered, especially in regards to like how mom would treat us or speak to us or discipline us. It was just do what you're told. Like children are to be seen and not heard. You are to do what you're told. That was very much the like vibe of her parenting, I guess you could say. So no, I don't think that there was any type of mediation. And I would later find out after landing with the family that adopted me as a teenager that my mom returned me to the system through this Christian agency, but I was adopted through DCFS. And so she didn't make DCFS aware that she had put me back in care. And so she was getting Social Security checks under my name from my biological mom's passing. Because my biological mom had passed when I was 13 and I started getting Social Security checks from that. And so because she like did it in secret, put me back in care, DCFS was forwarding the checks to her.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Did she put any other
the Social Security Administration was giving them to her, but DCFS would have flagged them if she was getting them and she had unadopted me, and they would have said, "Hey, she's here now." But yeah.
So now you're in handcuffs, you're at DCFS. Like, what happens? Did you talk to your mom? Were your siblings aware? What happened through all that day?
Yeah, so after I was taken to the family services building or this Christian agency or whatever it was, and I was sat down and given the paperwork to show that I was being put back in the system, my new caseworker took me home to get my things. And when I walked in the door, my things were already packed for me in black trash bags. My mom had all my siblings go in my room and throw all my stuff in trash bags and leave it by the door. And I ran upstairs to make sure that they didn't forget anything, especially this stuffed rabbit that I'd had since I was a kid. And I remember my brother coming upstairs and he was like, "Hey, mom doesn't want you up here. She says you have like no right to be running around her house when your things are waiting for you by the door." And I was like, okay. So I did go downstairs to talk to my mom. And
You're fine. We just have a technical. Are you back? It wants to fight her. Nope, can't hear you.
there it goes.
There we go. Yep.
Okay. 2 seconds. Yeah, so I went downstairs and tried to talk to my mom, asked her why she was doing this, asked her not to do it. And she just looked at me and she said, "Amber, just go." And so I walked out and I punched the wall on my way out, not enough to like make a hole, but I remember that was like the very first time I ever like physically got angry and hit something or someone. And I go outside and I start putting my things in my caseworker's car, and my brother comes outside and he's like, "Amber, mom wanted me to come out and tell you that she loves you." And when I was a kid, I truly believed that my mom sent him out to tell me that. But because I even remember like yelling back into the house that I loved her too. And like as an adult now, I know that it was probably just my brother like trying to protect me any way that he could, just to try and make me feel better about the situation. Yeah. I don't know if anyone knew about it before. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all that grief coming out of them lungs.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't think that any.
Maybe just turn your phone off so it doesn't keep picking it up. I don't know.
Okay, I switched the microphone.
There you go.
I think. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you sound different too, so maybe that did it.
Okay, perfect. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I'm not super technology proficient. You would think so, right, given my age, but so yeah, I don't think any of them knew. No.
Yeah. So then you spent a year going in and out of 3 foster families
Yep.
and foster homes.
Yeah, I landed. I was at a what's called respite care home the night that everything happened. So it was just a local foster family, and then the next day I was taken to a group home in Champaign, where I was for about a month or month and a half. And
Are you in Illinois?
Yes, yeah.
Stop it, me too.
Oh, no way. Where in Illinois are you?
Western suburbs.
Okay, I'm in like the Springfield area.
Oh, that's so funny. We could have done this in person
I know. I would have driven to you. Oh my gosh. Okay.
next time.
Yes. But yeah, I was in a group home for a month to a month and a half. And then I was taken to my first foster home, which is how I ended up in the Springfield area. And that foster home was terrible. It's, it was the mom appeared on the surface to other people like she was this like caring person, but she was not, and I was her target. It was like she needed someone to take all of her bitterness and anger of her own life out on, and she chose me, unfortunately. She said I just didn't try to fit in with the family, and that I just didn't fit, and I was ungrateful, and there were many times she called me slanderous, cruel names to call any person, but especially a child.
I'm just thinking that the insanity of somehow it's your job to fit into the family. You have to be grateful. Like,
Right.
it's such psychotic thinking for like parents. Like, I want my kids to have great gratitude because I want them to look around the world and feel grateful for the floor, clothing,
Right.
food. Like, I want them to feel gratitude, but I don't insist them to be grateful. I don't know if that makes any sense. But like, it's that whole kids should call and kids should fix it and kids should, like, you just spent the last 6 months of your life or 3 months of your life in complete and utter turmoil, and now all of a sudden you're supposed to ebb and flow and figure out how to fit into a family as
Yeah, that's how it is in foster care. Like when you're a foster kid, it is your job to mesh as quickly as possible with that family, to adjust your personality to match theirs, to adjust to the rules of the house, to not complain, to remember your manners at every second of every day, and to not show your grief, your pain, your emotions, the things you're going through, because those things make your foster family feel bad. Because why aren't we enough to have taken you in for you to not feel that way? There are a lot. Now, not every foster home is like that, not at all, but there are many that are. And it's when the child fails to meet the expectations of that family that you see the neglect and abuse happen. That's 4 times as likely to happen to a child simply because they are in foster care. You're 4 times as likely as a child in foster care to be neglected and abused.
I mean, I just look at it, like, so I have 2 at home. I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old. And there's expectations that are, verbalized. I'm working on that even now more than ever. Like, I'm really working on like expectation, time, and then cause and effect, right? Like, but at the same time, I know it's my responsibility to be the brain in the house. Like,
Right.
I have to be the mind that goes, okay, they're going through a lot at school. They're XY, friendships, boyfriend, social, sports. Okay, how can I hold them accountable, but also not make their life more difficult?
Right. And in holding your children accountable when they don't maybe meet your level of expectation, because they are kids and they're going through a lot, like you said, and we all have our own things happening. Even when they don't meet those expectations, you don't take away their entire sense of security and safety and shelter and food. And that's what happens to children in foster care. These families say, oh, like, you're not meeting our expectations. You don't deserve a home. Please go back where you came from and go find someone who actually wants to deal with you. Like that's what happens every single day to children in care. And they're just being bounced around the system. And a child lives in an average of 3 homes per year when in foster care.
When you look at it, from your perspective, because we can only talk about your perspective and maybe kind of paying attention to your siblings and foster family, the kids in foster care. Do you think that there's a general feeling by foster parents and adoptive parents, or you can say that there's a difference, right? And this is a generalized statement for the most part, that kids should be grateful,
Yes.
whether
Absolutely.
they're adopted or in the foster. You should be grateful I adopted you. You should be grateful that you are in my foster care system, and I'm helping you, more so than maybe a biological parent to a biological child.
A child in foster care or a child who is adopted is held to a higher standard of everything over a biological child.
With 10 times more issues.
Right. And sometimes I don't even think it's intentional. I think for some parents it's subconscious, but children who are adopted or fostered are held to a higher level of expectation and standard than that family's biological children.
Do you think that those children are also looked at? This is such a fascinating conversation. Do you also think that they are looked at as broken? So you're flawed, so I'm going to watch everything that you're doing because you're flawed. But I'm also going to hold you to a higher standard than my own children. And also you should be grateful. And also I'm not going to pay attention to the mental health crisis that you're probably in every minute of every day, and may or may not do anything to help you through that.
Yeah, it's sorry, I'm
It's a
trying to gather
perfect
my thoughts.
storm.
It's a complicated question. And I think what makes it difficult as well is because every time a child is taken from a home, their caseworker has to document why that family is making that child leave. So they, interview the foster parent and they say, what have you experienced with this child? Why are you wishing for them to be removed from your home? And that case file follows that child to every home they will see after that. The caseworker will bring the child to the new foster family and say, hey, here's a brief history. This is what she's been through. This is why she's in care. This is what the last foster family had to say. Just to give you some background knowledge of what you're dealing with. And depending on the report given by that previous foster family or the caseworker to the new foster parent, it really creates an idea in the new family's head of what that child is like already. That they're bad, that they're troubled, that they, are just difficult to handle, that they're very emotional, that they have angry outbursts, that they sleep a lot and are depressed. So then I think that really affects how that foster family is going to treat that child, watch that child, talk to them. If you tell someone that you're bringing a child into their home that, can get angry sometimes or is troubled or doesn't listen, that parent's going to be right on top of them. And that
no fresh start.
Right. There's no fresh start. You already have an opinion of me before I walked in your door.
And also that situation may have been caused from those foster parents, and then a new set of eyes. There's a totally different energy to that house, to that family, to that school system, whatever. You never escape. It's you never escape your social media screw ups. You never escape. You never escape your foster family file.
Right. It feels like you're watched like you're a criminal. So coming out of foster care, and I can't speak to what it actually feels like to go to jail or prison and come out back into society and how that treatment feels. Jax, please lay down. Lay down. Come on. His nails on the floor. Sit. But it feels like that. What I think that would feel like when you go to jail or prison and you re-enter society and how closely everyone watches you and nobody trusts you and you're forever treated like a criminal on some level. That's what it feels like to be a child in foster care coming into a new foster home, and how closely they watch you and manage you and the standard that they hold you to that's higher than their own children.
It's absolutely wild to have this conversation. And also, until I got on TikTok, I didn't realize that there is such a humongous community that is anti-adoption from kids and adults who have been adopted and through the adoption system.
Yeah.
Having people that were adopted come out in droves saying this is the worst system known to mankind. Like, this is flawed. Like, this is horrible. We should be supporting the people that had the children. Granted, I don't know if like your biological parents wanted to get out of drugs, but like, what did the system do to help them get out of drugs to
Right.
become the right parents, right? Or, sometimes it's just a financial situation. It's a 16-year-old, it's an 18-year-old, it's a 24-year-old, it's a 30-year-old who can't afford to have children. And so instead of helping that person raise their own child, that child, they're like supported into giving it up for adoption. And some people just don't want to be parents, but they also don't want to have an abortion. Like,
Mhm.
there's a myriad of reasons on why the adoption situation is what it is. But I'm amazed at how many people that are adoptees, children that were adopted in and out, are so against the whole system completely. That was new to me since joining TikTok. If you could wave a magic wand outside of the children staying with their parents, what would you do to fix foster care and the adoption system?
That is a really complex question because there are a lot of broken parts to the foster care system and they're all like moving at the same time. So it's like, which one is the most important to tackle? Because foster care and adoption is a $5 billion a year industry. That is a lot of money that the federal government pays out to states to reimburse them for their cost of bringing a child into care. But that means that for every child that is brought into care, the state is receiving X amount of dollars for that child coming into care from the federal government. It's somewhere around like $27 per day per kid. But when you look at the numbers of a child entering foster care every 2 minutes in America, that adds up. That's a lot of money coming back to these states from the government. So you first need to look at probably what is a lot of political and financial corruption that keeps this system working how it does. You have like you said, there are parents who can't afford certain things and they're labeled as neglectful, all because maybe they couldn't afford rent for a couple months or they couldn't afford food. And instead of helping, the state will take their child and put them in foster care and pay a foster parent to take care of that child when that same money could have gone to this good parent who just can't afford a few things, and you could have kept that family together. But now you've traumatized both the parent and the child and put them through a system that is unnecessary.
And you hear that, you see that. I mean, I know it sounds dumb, but you see it in movies, but it's true because movies are based on real life where it's just like, I am living on the street or I'm about to have to live on the street. I have to give my baby up because I literally cannot take care of that child. But if we would have just supported that family through the first 12 months, I've talked about it on social media. My dad, he was a judge. And when people used to come in before him, and they would have 1, 2, 4, 5 children, he would say, look, I'm supposed to put you in jail. I'm supposed to make you get a job. But instead, what I want you to do is go take care of your kids. We'll
Right.
figure this out. Like, I want you to raise your children because otherwise your children are going to be standing in front of me in 5, 10 years because they're not going to have had a parent at home making sure that they're doing their homework and at home and being responsible. Like, I think that it's like, oh, adoption, great. And I've become so heightenedly aware of, you hear these parents that are like, yes, we were supposed to get the baby and the mom changed their mind. And I can't believe they did this to us. And that was our baby. And now we're so aware through education on TikTok and social media of like, the end game is not that you take someone else's baby. The end game is that mother of that newborn somehow is able to take care of that child. Like,
Or at least be kept in their life. I think people forget how traumatic it is to a child to be separated from its parents, but especially their mother, and especially a newborn. And people don't like to think that it's traumatic to the newborn because it's just a baby. Oh, it won't even remember her. That baby's body, brain, soul, everything remembers its mother. And there are so many studies on what happens in the brain and body of a newborn when they are separated from their mom. And so even those who
I'm
were
literally just
adopted,
thinking about the fact that we don't want to remove puppies from its mom for at least 8 weeks.
right, but we'll rip a newborn out of the arms of its mother
Day 2.
day 2. Or there was a study put out that showed that 97% of mothers who gave up their babies at birth said that they would have liked to have been a mother, and they could have for $5,000 to allow them to take off work to heal and to buy the basic necessities that you need when a baby first comes home: car seat, bed, diapers, wipes, those types of things. But they felt pressured or manipulated into the decision of giving their child away, because you have various avenues of this. You see a pregnant mom in church and she looks very young, and there are people who are not ashamed to walk up to that young woman and say, we've wanted a baby for the longest time and can't have one, and we know you're in a difficult spot. We could give your baby a wonderful home. You can't provide that to them. You're not in a place to do that. Let us help you. Or some variation of that. There's people on Facebook Marketplace who see a mom asking for help getting diapers and formulas, and will reach out to her and say, well, if you can't afford these things, why don't you let me adopt your baby? I'm better for, you know what I mean? Like, and you hear those stories all the time.
I did that to a relative.
Yeah.
I did that.
Oh, did
I
you?
did. Yeah. I reached out to a relative who was pregnant, and I said, because I already had 2 kids, and I said, if you don't think you could handle this, I will raise your baby. And I was in their life, so it wasn't,
Yeah.
it wouldn't,
Yeah.
no, and there's no way out of this person's life. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and I said, like, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll take this child on, like, thinking that was a good thing. But now I
But now
think
we
that
know that it like really pressured these moms into giving up their
yes.
babies when a majority of them did not want to. And you mentioned earlier people being against adoption. I am not against adoption if it is under the right circumstance. Unfortunately, people are getting involved in foster care and becoming foster parents in the hopes of finding an adopted child. And that is not the goal of foster care. The goal of foster care is reunification. You should be providing this child a safe, stable, nurturing, loving home while they need it, getting them the support they need so that when they go home, they're ready. Because they may have been through things with their parents, but they still want to be with their parents. And there are tools they're going to need to navigate this really difficult system and being taken away from their parent, and maybe even things they were put through with their parent. And hopefully their parent is getting the help they need to be who they need to be when the child does come home. Now, if that doesn't happen, if the parent is unable or unwilling to do what they need to get their child back, and that child becomes available for adoption, by all means. But that should not be your hope and prayer when you are taking in a child from foster care.
But if you think about it, adoption is so expensive that if someone wants to have a free adoption,
Yeah,
the
you go
only
through
way
foster care.
is foster to adopt,
Yep.
and then pray to God that parent never gets their kid back.
Right. Like, you are praying for a child to continue to live in crisis and to experience trauma, because that's what's happening. Every time they're pushed and pulled through the system of going to court and having to sit in court with their parent and hear the judge say that the parent hasn't met the standard yet that they need to, all that tells that child is, wow, I'm sitting in this courtroom and I can't go home with my mom today because I'm not good enough for her to get her stuff together. You know what I mean? So the child tells themselves that, and you are praying for them to continue to go through that process so that they go through enough court dates that the courts relinquish the right of the parent and you get to adopt them. That is awful. It's awful.
I'm like literally sick.
Right. And people do it every day. That is their hope when they start fostering, is that child will become permanently available to them.
I mean, it sounds to me like there needs to be some sort of intervention if there's a mother at risk, right? So whatever that means, there's a mother, a family at risk who is pregnant. How can we intervene? So instead of sending $27 a day to a foster care system, we could send $27 today, per day or whatever, hook them up with what they need and support that parent family through the first year, etc. So there's step A. Step B sort of sounds like we remove the foster to adopt and make adoption less expensive.
Right.
I mean, like, I mean, it's like
But
adoption's
that
like
would
what?
be good for the politicians who manage the $5 billion a year that make up the foster care industry. So
It's so funny because recently I've always sat inside of that money is the root of all evil, because like money is also the root of good. Like,
right.
like you can do a lot of really great things with money, and money is freedom, and you can go travel the world with money and, eat great food, whatever.
Give to Falala Foster for Christmas with money.
Yes, I have that on my paper. Don't worry. I'm bringing that shit up. Um, but like I look at it sometimes and I'm just like, a lot of the negative comes back to greed. Like it's not just about money. It's about the perversion of systems, the perversion of all the things because of money. It's just crazy. Now you're speaking out. You've grown your platform to God, 700,000? Where are we at?
Like 833,000 last time I
Eight,
checked.
eight,
833.4 thousand last time I
right. Like you're like just shy of 1 million followers from just talking. I mean, not just, but you know what I mean. From talking about your journey and also being really vulnerable about what you're going through just in life. I know you're really big into working out. All
Yes.
us crazy people are. It takes a certain amount of crazy to get abs like you have. But
Yeah. It's taken a
but
long time
like
to get there.
yeah, focusing time, effort, and energy into positive like is in my opinion always a good choice. You just got a new job
I did.
and
And
you
I
you
love
also
it.
you love it. Oh
I
good.
do.
And also, you started Falala Foster. So Falala Foster.
Yes.
And this is where you have created Amazon wish lists for gifts and so on and so forth to go back to children in foster care. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yes. So when I first told my story 5 years ago, my page blew up like crazy. And I jumped from like no followers at all to 600,000 followers. And it was right around the holiday season. And I said, I need to do something with this to give back to children in care. And so, together with my followers, we created Follow Foster. And it is a Christmas donation program for children in foster care. 1 in 3 children in foster care go without Christmas every single year. And so this is just a way to gather donations for local foster children in my community. We work together with the James Project as well as the Child Advocacy Study Center of UIS to, through the Amazon wish list, gather donations both from my online community and our local community. And you can also make cash donations to the Venmo as well. We've raised $800 in cash donations so far, and we're so close to 100 items from the Amazon wish list being donated. I'm hoping before we reach our deadline, December 6th, this Saturday, that we'll meet that goal.
Well, I think we're getting this podcast out today, so I'm definitely going to put this week, so we'll put this in the show notes. So how does someone find that? So you go on to Amazon and like put in a wish list, fa la 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 la.
So if you go to my TikTok page, they
Okay.
are both linked in my link tree. There's the Follow Foster Amazon wish list, and then the link to the Venmo as well. And then there's a Follow Foster 2025 Facebook page as well that I started, and you can find the links there too.
Okay, so I'll make sure that all that's in the show notes because you do have Instagram as well.
Yes.
And Facebook for
Yes.
this, and
Yep.
then TikTok, and then you have the link tree. So I'll make sure and get those links and put them in the show notes. And I'll also share that on, all the things that I'm doing.
I'm starting to try to
looking,
expand more into Instagram. So
what, hon?
I'm starting to try and share more on Instagram as well. So yeah.
So there's this app I always tell people, Jen, the nurse, she shared about, I guess it's called like repurpose.io. So if you're doing the same thing on one platform as you are on the other, it'll repurpose everything and like throw it to YouTube and all the things. And then you're not like moving and repurpose it because sometimes it can be a lot.
It is. Yeah, it can be.
When you look back at all of the things, I just had a conversation with a client about this morning. When you look back at all of the things that you've been through and what you're doing now, do you feel a sense of calm purpose?
Yes. I was just talking the other day about the peace that I have felt in my life, especially this year. Because when I first started telling my story on here 5 years ago, it was overwhelming. I did not expect to get the attention and support from it that I did. And that support started my healing process. People ask me all the time, like, where did the healing journey start for you? And it started the day I pressed post on my first story time. And I finally said, I'm not going to be scared of this story anymore. I'm not going to run away from what happened to me. I'm going to face it, and I'm going to tell the truth about what happened to me. And what I found in return was overwhelming love and support from this giant online community that I'd never expected. And yeah. And since then, just continuing the work, continuing the advocacy, continuing to be a voice for those like me who have been through it or are currently going through it, it's brought me my purpose, and it's helped me find my peace. And it feels like I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to, and I'm exactly where I belong, doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
I love it so much. I think that so many people go through so many things, obviously not the same as you or anyone else. We all have our story, but our stories are so incredibly powerful to change us and to change and you're as sick as your secrets.
Yes.
And your fear is your freedom. And as you broke out and you said you hit the story time and you put it out in the world and you're like, screw all of this, people don't realize the power of social media, the power of storytelling, especially when it's your own story, and the freedom that comes with helping people. I heard something one time and it said, if you want to heal yourself, heal others. If you want to heal others, heal yourself.
That's
And
beautiful. Love that.
isn't that the best?
Yes.
I wish I knew who said it, but I just think that you are a perfect example of healing others, which then is also healing you and giving you purpose and giving you an opportunity to give back and giving you a platform that is so incredibly, I don't know if the word is deserved, but the fact that you went through it and you're willing to put it out there, then it's therefore deserved. There's a lot of people with great voices, but only certain ones who grab a microphone. And so like, I'm just so incredibly blessed that you grabbed that microphone and you're doing all the things and sharing all the things, and hopefully change will come from that, because only through our stories, does change happen,
Absolutely. Yeah. And people, I have had criticism over the years of why share something so personal, why be so vulnerable in the things that happen to you, why share so many details of your personal life. And it's exactly like you said, because not only has it brought me healing and taken back the power from what happened to me, but more than anything, it has allowed me to help other people. And at my core, that's the person that I am. I enjoy connecting to others. I like being someone that people know that they can rely and trust on, like that they can rely on and trust. And I just enjoy helping people. Yeah. Like if I can help someone else find their inner strength, the strength they need to take back the power from what happened to them, if that's only one person in my entire life from telling my story, that would have been enough for me. But I get messages every single day from so many people seeking my advice or thanking me for helping them, telling me that I've given them strength or inspired them to tell their own story. That to make that impact on the world feels incredible. And I'm very blessed to have been given the platform that I've been given to do that.
I think what we need to do.
You kind of froze. Oh no. What happened?
Still being heard. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah,
Are you back?
Oh, there you go. Now you're back. And I think I'm kind of like lagging now. We've had so many technical difficulties. Anyway.
I know. God just doesn't, the evil spirits don't want us to get our message out.
Lingering.
But you know what? Like I could see you creating some sort of like foster parent checklist. Like, are you holding your foster children at a higher level than you're holding your own children? Are you scrutinizing them? Are you understanding and remembering every single moment that this child is dealing with difficulties? Like, there's so much perspective that you have from so many different perspectives. And now being an adult looking back, like you just are carrying so much wisdom. And I'm so blessed, and I'm so happy that you came and decided to share your story here. Because it's not just about being TikTok famous, and like I said, almost 1 million followers, people listening to your story. That's 1 million individuals whose lives are changing because of your content. That's then spreading to multi-millions of friends, family, coworkers, their children, their children's children. The amount of people's lives that a creator changes is in the multi-millions.
Yeah.
Infinitum. Because you are just one bit of information can change a person's life that will prevent them from looking harsher at their foster child or like, and I want to tell you, I have 4 children. The oldest is a crazy, wild 29-year-old, and the youngest right now is 14. And each one of them gives me a run for my money in different ways. And I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, there is absolutely nothing that you could have done that would have justified you being put back up for adoption. It was never you. It wasn't about you. It was that other person, your adoptive mother's inabilities to cope for whatever her reasons were. But I want you to know, from a mom, you were perfect.
Or some variation of it, I suppose.
Yeah. You were a perfect teenager. You were a perfect 14-year-old. You were a perfect 13-year-old. And your journey has led you to today, and nothing was out of order. You were perfect. You were a perfect teenager. Somehow we got here, and you're using it for good. But never, ever in your heart ever question that, because believe me when I tell you, the drinking, the this, the that, was it good? No. However, you were in alignment with a 13 and 14-year-old. So just, take that with a grain of salt. But I wanted you to know before we hung up that you were a perfect teenager who deserved all the love in the world. But where we ended up on your journey, you're doing all the things. And so for that, we are all grateful.
And I'm so grateful for everyone who's given me this platform and allowed me to have this voice to speak out for others and to speak out for change, and just for letting me tell my story and for loving and supporting and encouraging me through that. It's changed my life.
You're doing it, girl. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for being here again for another episode of TikTok Famous Podcast. And I will see you all here next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the TikTok Famous Podcast with Meredith Willett. If you're loving the unfiltered stories and behind-the-scenes truths, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show. Until next time, let's get famous.